The Rebbe explained in great length, great detail, how the Yetzer Hora works. And that it tricks a person to believe he's his best friend, and that he is the voice of his true self, and it encourages him to do anything and everything possible to keep as far away from the Torah as possible, and automatically as far away from Judaism as possible. And every time a person starts thinking about maybe changing back to Judaism and doing what the Torah says, so the Yetzer Hora convinces them that he's a good Jew. He doesn't have to change himself, which is important to these people. It's important to every Jew that he should be called a good Jew. But everyone wants to define it however he wants, or more exactly how the evil impulse wants. What can you do? We're totally under the control of our selfish nature. That's the way God created us. We were that way from the second we were born. And it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. We keep fortifying it. The Yetzer Hora, the what's called the Yetzer Hora, the selfish inclination, its end goal is to kill the person. Sometimes it doesn't succeed physically, but at least it does spiritually. It makes a person empties a person's out. And it makes him not care, or pretend that he doesn't care. So what's going on? It's like a you ever see there's I know somebody like this, that he lost his balance, sense of balance. You ever hear a thing like that? I knew somebody like that. They lose their sense of balance. What does it mean? Everything works. The whole body works. Their eyes, their nose, their mouth, their feet. They're in perfect physical shape.
There's a word for that.
I don't know, but they just can't. They have no sense of balance. They can't stand up. They don't know which way is right, which way is left. Because that's what the Yetzer Hora can do to a person, what the evil inclination do to a person. It loses his balance. Interestingly enough, the sense of balance, it comes from what's called the inner ear. It's the inner ear, and it's something like the same word as your conscience. Its conscience is matzpun. Matzpun is the same thing as a matzpen. Matzpen is like a compass that tells you where to go, an internal compass. And matzpun means your conscience. And it also comes from the word safun, which means to be hidden. So it's what's called your inner ear. What does it mean, your inner ear? That you can hear ideas about God, but it doesn't go to the inside of you. It doesn't really click. So a person, therefore, he's bumbling around in the world spiritually. Can't figure out where he is. He's healthy, totally healthy. He's a Jew, but he's just totally confused. Right? He loses all of his sense of balance, his sense of directions, his sense of conscience. His conscience tells him to do exactly the opposite of what it's really right to do. What are you going to do with a situation like that? What can you do? That's the way God created it. God created it that way. Says the Rebbe, V'hine, ha'etza ha'ya'utza. The advice which is given to this, says the Rizal, Barati Yetzer Hora. I created a Yetzer Hora. Barati lo Torah tavlin. And I created for it Torah as a spice. Spice. A person that knows how to use his spices properly, as the food becomes delicious. Without that, it's very bland. Even not tasty. Sometimes you can have things that are bitter. You put salt on it or something like that. It makes it sweet. The Torah is a spice for the Yetzer Hora, for the evil inclination. In other words, God wants there to be this evil inclination. He wants it to be. But He wants you to spice it up so that it heal it. Ve'im atem oskin b'Torah. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is the spice. If you work at the Torah, what does it mean work at the Torah? You learn the Torah, you understand the ideas of the Torah. You go over it, you're sure that you understand it. You ask questions, try to find the answers. That means oskin b'Torah. Ein atem nimtzorim biyado, then you will not be handed over to your selfish, self-destructive impulse. And that's what it says, Im paga b'cha. Please be with us. Im paga b'cha. If you meet up, b'cha, manuvel zeh, this disgusting, how do they call it? There was a deplorable, this deplorable one. The Yetzer Hara that all he wants to do is destroy you. Mitgare b'cha. If it starts to call to you, make you trouble, convince you, confuse you, mashchehu lebeit midrash, draw him into the place of learning. Start learning Torah. Torah is an amazing elixir that can bring life. It can bring the opposite also, we'll see. Im even hu, if your selfish impulse is like a stone, nimuach, it will melt. Im barzel hu, if it is your selfish impulse is like iron, mitpotzetz, it will explode. So what does it mean? What's going on? What's the Rebbe talking about? If you look at the world, you'll see how many wars, how much destruction, how much crime, how much selfishness there is in the world. It's terrible. Terrible, awful. A lot of people say that the reason they wouldn't go into crime is because they're just afraid of getting caught. You know, it says if it wasn't for the police, ish et chaveru chayim below. If it wasn't for the police, people would swallow each other up alive, so they could feel the other guy going down live, down his. In other words, people are very, very selfish. Rarely do you find a person that really thinks about the others. Right? You have this. The epitome is the crooked politicians. Politicians are supposed to not think about themselves. They're supposed to represent the people, and they find out that all the guy was thinking about what is himself. Right? They elected him. He's always thinking about himself. He says why do we see that outside? Because it's going on inside of us. Right? It's so much fun to point fingers at somebody else, but we should know that if you point finger at somebody else, the three fingers are pointing back at you. Because if you see something bad in another person, it's a sign that it's probably going on in you. That's why you noticed it. That's why it bothers you. Not always. Not always. And of course, everyone will say, I'm the exception. But if so, how do we get rid of this? If it's so convincing and it so hypnotizes us to this degree, says the Rebbe, that's what the Torah is there for. The Torah is objective. The Torah really comes from God. It's really a chance for you to become truly objective. Hainu asher kol kach poel Yetzer Hara al. See, the first word in line is al. The Yetzer Hara has such an effect al ha'adam. 5 lines down. Asher nasek adomim, that the person becomes like a rock or like a piece of iron. Ukashem she'adomim, just like a rock, a mineral. Einu kli lekabel eza seichel, that you cannot talk to a rock, or we talked about this before, or a piece of iron. Lefisha einu mimahuto va'erko klal. You can't give ideas to a rock. You can't expect a piece of iron to understand anything. Kacha adamahu, also an egotistical person. Einu be'erich, he is not to the level lit pa'el, to be affected me'inyan eloki, from an idea about God. Is Rahman etzlan v'afar steiner. A person becomes like a stone. And a lot of times, we talked about this before, if you look at the people who are the big atheists, right? They could be genius intellectuals, but if you look at them in their personal lives, right, what type of personal lives that they have? Do they have really any values? You'll see most of these people are just the most selfish and a lot of times decadent people that there are, because they think nothing's decadent. You just do what you want, right? Don't hurt anybody. So you see that there's these people, a lot of times they have no real personal values that lead them in life. And a lot of times these people become revealed, right? They become revealed. They want to become a mayor or something. So you remember what you did back such and such a time. You remember what you did, right? And then they find out it wasn't so long ago. Maybe it was even last week. Stealing and cheating and yelling. Not to say that people that are religious don't do this. Exactly the opposite. Sometimes it can be that a person that learns the Torah becomes worse, right? Because the Torah gives them power over others. You're going to tell me what to do. I learned the Torah. All the King David's enemies were geniuses in Torah. All of Moses' enemies, Korach and all these people, they was called the Dor Deah. They all knew the whole Torah. Same thing with all of the prophets in the first temple. These people that hated the prophets, these were people who knew what the Torah was. In those days, you didn't even have to have the Talmud. Everybody knew all the laws. So it's possible that a person can learn the Torah. And the Torah, I was told by my teachers, if you learn the Torah, it fixes you up automatically. 20%, 15%. Automatically. But the rest, the other 90%, the other 80%, 85%, you have to do yourself. As field nit kein chayos in Torah v'mitzvahs. He doesn't feel any life in the Torah and the commandments. He's like a stone. He puts on tefillin because everybody else does it. He doesn't want to get caught not doing it. If he misses a few days or doesn't hurt him. Doesn't feel anything. Exactly like he's happy. He can do what he wants. He can play video games or something. What's the advice? Torah. Learning Torah. Vehiluch labeit midrash, and going to the place where they learn Torah. What's the problem? The problem is that it's the last thing he wants to do. What's he want to go and learn Torah for? What's the point? Right? It makes him totally insensitive, and learning the Torah seems to be one of the biggest, or the biggest, who knows, waste of time. What are you going to get out of it? At least you play a video game, you see, you shoot this guy, or you blow something up, or you do something.
You get anxiety, you feel something.
Yeah, you feel something. As they're filled in these kind of chayas, says, what's the point? What's the point? We live in this world. You understand, a person he lives a certain amount of time. People don't live forever. Maybe you've come to this conclusion. People don't. It's not like some people live and some people die and some people don't die. Everybody dies. Life is limited. Life is limited. You only have a certain amount of life. But the soul is eternal. The soul was never born. The soul was put into a body, and then after that, the soul leaves the body. Right? So do something for your soul. Do something for your soul. A person just eats chicken, or he makes money. What does that do for his soul? Something for your soul right now. Your soul is alive right now. Let's not talk about what's going to be in the world to come. The idea of the world to come is that suddenly, all of a sudden, you realize that it was a big bluff. That you thought your body is you, that it was really a big mistake. My body was not me. Right? That you forgot totally about your soul. As they're filled in these a person who doesn't feel any life in doing Torah v'mitzvahs. Okay, Herschel. Ha'etzel lezehu Torah. And hiluch labeit midrash v'zehu im atem oskim b'Torah. If you learn Torah. Tinyan esek. What does it mean? Not just learning Torah. You have to work at the Torah. Levad zod, not only that he learns in himself, was einu yochol lilmod. Einu yochol lilmod ba'atzmo. Shomea mipi acharim. And those people who don't know how to read Hebrew, or they can't put the words together, or they can't put the ideas together, so you'll hear from other people. Hinehu mitasek laharbitz Torah barabim. He tries to teach others as well. Tries to make groups and that they learn in public. Kamosha Katuv, like it says, Mipi Olim V'Yonkim Yisarata Oz. From the mouths of children and babies, you have founded the power of the Jewish people. Omer Azal Ein Oz al Torah. Power is the Torah. What's the Rebbe saying over here? The Torah is godly. The Torah is actually God's wisdom in the world. When you look at it, you figure what God's wisdom must be. Something that must be sparks shooting out, or fire, or at least you feel some sort of an amazing elevation, or some sort of a out-of-body experience, or something like that. That shows how much you understand about God. You're trying to interpret everything according to your terms. One of the reasons that like drugs and things like that, why they're so popular, is because people are so confused, and they rely so much on themselves, and they're so afraid that something's going to happen to them, and this them that they're afraid of is totally confused. It has the whole world wrong, but nevertheless people are afraid they're going to lose it. Right? So you take a few drinks, you take some drug, you take some of this, and all of a sudden that me that I'm so sure of, it becomes confused. And suddenly you realize, wow, all my troubles and all my fears and all my worries are coming from this big ego that itself is not really as stable as I thought. Right? All of a sudden everything, what is my real ego? All of a sudden you sort of stand back a little bit and you look, you see, well, I am drunk, I am, under the influence of some chemical, I am, so who is this, the new I? All of a sudden you realize that there's a new I. What's the problem? The problem is that, so what are you supposed to do with this new I that looks at the I that's being confused? What are you going to do with this? It doesn't know. After he finishes, he goes back to being the same old person. The world is so confused with values and what people live for, right? That people live for absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. You see how excited people get for absolutely nothing. Right? Somebody scratched my car. I went to a restaurant. They didn't give me the food exactly the way I wanted. Something like that. People go angry. They get mad. Good. Okay. You have a claim against the person. Get angry, berserk.
Would it be fair to say, another way to say that is that the world just overwhelms them?
That certainly is true.
So it's a way of
yes, that's a coping.
Coping with it.
Yes, that certainly is true. But that's also part of it. Okay, Herschel.
Yes.
That's part of the whole thing. A person is put in the world and he wants to control. Right? He wants to control. So he wants to be in control. So as much as he can control, he tries to control. But you can't really control. Nobody knows what's going to happen. No one knows what there were people sitting in the Twin Towers, the safest place in the world. All of a sudden, an airplane came and crashed. You don't know what's going to be. So some people say, "Wow, I don't know what's going to be." That's anxiety, right? So what's the alternative to that? Listen, don't try to control. Do what you can, right, to make the present better. And what's going to happen is not in your hands, right? It's not in your hands. What's going to happen is up to God, and you have to believe that God is good. But you have to do what you can now, the maximum, everything, to make right now good, right? You open up a business, so sink yourself into the business and make the business the best possible, but it shouldn't interfere with your learning Torah and doing commandments. But the time you do have free, make the business clean and make it presentable and advertise properly and have good products and be responsible and everything. But don't worry about what's going to be. Don't worry. Plan for what's going to be. But if it doesn't come out that way, don't worry. Says the Rebbe, what is the antidote to all this? God put His wisdom in the world. You don't have to just believe in God. You should, of course, believe in God, but God put the Torah in the world. When you learn the Torah, you put God's ideas in your mind. And it's not just ideas that God thought 3,000 years ago or 3 billion years ago. This is what God is thinking right now. You're learning the Torah. This is incredible. But it's true, and it has an effect on you. B'kol makom v'makom, each and every place. Please look inside. Kafi efshar la'em, according to what is possible. Learn Torah and Rabbim. The first word on the line is makom, It is 7 lines from the bottom of this middle paragraph. The Hal Yedei, that by means of this, Nimuach HaYetzer Hora, by means of this, the Yetzer Hora melts. Kamosh Anu Roim, like we see. Bekama Bnei Adam, many people that work in the Torah. Bekama Ofanim Shonim, in different ways. Hine Al Yedei Taskudzu, by means of this occupation, Harihu, Harihim Omdim B'Malu U'Madregel Yona Yoter. They are standing in a higher level. They can be more practical, and the world has less negative effect on them. Va'afilu mishu ba'atzmo ish pashut, even a person who is himself very simple. Okay, Herschel. Ve'eno yochol, and he is not able lilmod, to learn himself. Rak osek lahachzik lomdei Torah. He just does everything he can to strengthen those people who learn the Torah. Hari hu mitaleh, he elevates himself. Umitromem b'mamad u'matzav nafshe. He elevates himself and raises himself to a higher level. V'hem anikraim ma'arei ovdin tovin. These people are called masters of good deeds. There's some people that hard for them to learn Torah, so they support the people who learn the Torah. But we have to, you can never ever underestimate the importance of the Torah. You can never estimate the importance of the Torah also. It's incredibly and infinitely important what the Torah does. If there was no Torah, there would be no world whatsoever. That's what the Rebbe says. No Torah, no world. Kamosha Ketuv, like it says in another place, Gadol Zachut Oskim Bezeh, the great merit of those who work in this. Kamayim Razal, like the rabbis say, Ha'osik b'Torah, a person who works at the Torah, tries to understand the Torah, tries to understand the ideas, tries to remember what he learned. Yisurim b'dilim himeno, that suffering is separated from him. And in Avodah Zarah, in the Gemara, it says, Omru nechasiv matzlichim. It says that a person has more success in his business. What does it mean he has more success? He makes more money? Not necessarily, but the money that he does make goes to good things. The money that he does make goes less to sickness and to problems and to psychiatrists and to doctors. Usually. And here we see that it's a very amazing thing. Okay, Herschel, we see a very amazing thing. That here the Jewish people have been spread all over the world for 2,000 years, and nothing has been holding them together. They didn't have a common government, and they didn't have a common army, and they didn't have a common language. And they don't have a common skin color, they don't have a common the foods that they eat. Right? A Yemenite Jew compared to a Russian Jew, there's no comparison whatsoever. They eat different foods, they have a different language. What's held everybody together? The Torah. The Torah, no matter where Jews are, there's always some Jews that sit and they learn the Torah. That is what gives Jewish identity to the Jews.